Hi class, this is Mrs. Cornett. I'm going to work through some percent problems in section 3.3. This is part 1 of 2 videos, so make sure you check out the second video because that includes some discount and markup word problems. Okay, before I work through these example problems, I want to talk to you about the percent equation. This is definitely something that you need to write down. The equation itself is A equals P times B. So you can think of PB like peanut butter. And then let me tell you what each of these variables stand for. A is the part that's going to be compared to the whole. And each of these problems, we're going to be figuring out the missing number. And so, for example, if you look at 25, what number is 30% of 150? So the whole is 150, and that's actually letter B. Your book defines B as the base number, and I'm also saying it's the whole number, not whole number like the set of whole numbers, but just out of this much is what I'm talking about. And the last letter is P, stands for percent, but it must be in decimal form. Also, I do want you to use a calculator here because some of these will get too complicated if you're multiplying by hand. And so I will let you use a calculator for your homework, and I will let you use a calculator for your math test. Okay, so let's go back to 25. It says, what number is 30% of 150? So the percent equation is A equals PB. We know our P is percent. We're going to change that to a decimal. I'm going to go ahead and add parentheses around it. Parentheses also stands for multiplication. B is our total or our whole number, and this is 30% of 150. And so A is what we're looking for. So we'll multiply those two numbers together, and A equals 45. Going straight down to 27, what number is 0.75% of 56? We're going to set it up the same way. A is what we're looking for, and pay close attention here. How do you think we're going to change a decimal percent to a full-blown decimal? We're still going to move the decimal 2 places over, so it will be 0.0075 times our whole is out of 56, and when you multiply those two numbers together, you'll get the decimal 0.42. The reason this decimal is so small is because we're taking such a small percentage of 56. Okay, I'm going to work 26 and 28 a different way. I'm going to call it the Miss Cornett method. I did not make this up, but this is how I choose to solve these problems. Your book uses the percent equation, which is a fine method, and if it works for you, that's fine. I just want to show you a second option, just in case this one makes more sense to you. And so it's a proportion, is over of, and yes, that's the word is over the word of, equals percent over 100. That's the template, that's the equation that we're going to use for this method. And here's how we're going to choose the numbers. The percent part is easy. If you look at number 26, 60 has the percent symbol. And so for this first problem, we're just going to put 60 right there where the percent is. The cool thing about using this method is that you do not have to change it to a decimal first. Okay, now let's try to find the is and the of number. If you go back up to number 26, the question reads, what is 60% of 820? So 820 will go in the position in the denominator where the of word is, and then that's the question, what number is? And so that is going to be a variable. So we'll have x, because that's the number we don't know. We don't know what is, over of, which is of the total 820, equals 60 over 100. Next we'll cross multiply. 100x equals 49,200. Divide both sides by 100, and x equals 492. Let me just show you how to do that one more time with number 28, and then we'll go on to another screen. Number 28 says what number is, so we'll put x for our is number, is 325%, so that will be our percent over 100 of 450, so that will go where in the denominator where the of is. Now we'll cross multiply. 100x equals 146,250. Divide both sides by 100 to get x equals 1,462.5. And the reason that number is so much bigger than the original whole, the 450, is because you're taking 325% of that number. So that's well over 100% of the number. That's why it's bigger. Okay, let's look at a few more problems. These are written in a different order, but you can still use the same equation to solve these. I'm going to cut the screen in half. Over here, I want to use the percent equation, and you can remember the percent equation because A equals PB. Peanut butter, peanut butter. So take a look at 31. 90 is 43% of what number? Okay, so remember A is the part, or you can call A is the is number, equals percent, which is in a decimal form, times the whole, which is your of number. And so to set up this equation, it would be 903 equals 0.43 times x. Because of what number? That's the question. Now we'll divide both sides by 0.43 to get x is 2100. Okay, take a look at 33. 594 is 450% of what number? And so 594 is the part, or your is number. So 594, that's your A, equals percent. This will be 4.5 of what number? So this will be x. Divide both sides by 4.5, and x is 132. Okay, for 32 and 34, I want to use this other method, the is over of equals percent over 100. For number 32, 275 is, so we're going to put that number in the numerator. 100 will always go in the denominator of the second fraction. 12.5%, we're going to go ahead and change that to 12.5. Of what number? So that's where our variable x is going to go. Now we'll cross multiply to get 12.5x equals 27,500. Divide both sides by 12.5, and x equals 2,200. Okay, let's do 34 in the same method. It says 51.2 is, so that's our is number. 100 will go in the denominator. Here's our percent, 0.08. So we can just put it exactly the way it's written, just take off the percent sign. Of what number? That's where your variable, that's the missing number, will go. Now we'll cross multiply to get 0.08x equals 5,120. Divide both sides by that 0.08 to get 64,000. Okay, last few problems for this video. Again, I want to show you a different way of writing these problems. Each of these problems, the actual percent is missing. And so let's do the same thing we've done before. We have our A equals P times B, and in 38 and 40, we'll use the is over of equals percent over 100. Okay, first, 37. 576 is what percent of the total 800? So here's how we would fill that in the percent equation. A is 576 because that's the part, and we're comparing it to the whole, which is 800, equals, this time we don't know the P, so I'm just going to leave the P, times 800. It might be easier if I rewrote it this way, equals 800P. Now divide both sides by 800 to get P equals 0.72. But this is tricky because remember what P represented. P is the percent in decimal form. And so now you need to move the decimal 2 places to the right. And so the correct answer that I will take on a test or WebAssign is 72%. 3922 is what percent of 800, so our whole is actually the same. This 22 equals P times 800. Again, I'll rewrite it just so it will look the way we usually see equations. 22 equals 800p. Divide both sides by 800 to get the decimal of 0.0275. But remember, that's the decimal form, and the actual percentage is 2.75%. And all I did was move the decimal 2 places to the right, or you can multiply by 100. Okay, let me quickly do 38 and 40 before the video gets too long. 38 says 38 is what percent of 5,700, and notice I'm emphasizing the word is and the word of. 38 will be our is number, so it will go in the numerator. Of 5,700 will be our denominator, equals x over 100. We'll cross multiply to get 5,700x equals 3,800. Divide both sides by 5,700 to get the decimal 0.6666 repeating. Now, if you're using the is over of method, this is the answer. This is the percent. because we did not convert it to a decimal, even though our answer is a decimal. You should be able to type in this decimal, or if you know what that decimal represents, it also represents just the fraction 2/3. Either one of those answers should work. Okay, let's try one more. Number 40, 148.8 is what percent of 960? 148.8 is our is number. 960 is our of number. We don't know the percent, so that's where the variable will go, and it's always over 100. Next, we'll cross multiply to get 960x equals 14,880. To solve this equation, you just divide by 960 to both sides to get the decimal 15.5, and that is the percent. Because if you're using the is over of method, you don't have to change the percent to a decimal, and so this is actually your answer. So I hope I haven't confused you. I've introduced 2 different ways that you can solve the exact same problem. Please watch this video again or contact me, ask me questions. I encourage you just to pick a method. It does not matter to me which one you like, and stick with that method and work all your problems using that same method. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions.